So I rebuilt both of the forks. It's time to put the front end back together. So we'll start with this right side fork and then move on to the left side fork. But there's a clip that needs to be slid on before you go through the upper triple clamp. That clip, if you slide that all the way up into that air tube, right, that's the crossover for the air tube. So you slide that all the way up and it just comes to a stop. That pretty much centers your bars where they're supposed to be. Now I'm still going to measure them later, but now I'm putting another clip on top, and what that does is hold the handlebars from falling off if the bolt falls out, I guess. So 2 circlips on each fork, one at the top, one at the bottom. Now on the upper triple clamp, there's not only a bolt, but there's also a little clip for the wiring harness. So you have 3 places to tighten these things. 1, the handlebars, 2, the top triple clamp, and then the lower triple clamps. Here I'm putting that clip back on top of the thing. I'll measure it in a minute to make sure that both bars or both forks are at the same height. But it does make it extremely easy on this particular bike, since that snap ring or C-clip goes all the way up into that air crossover tube. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install the headlight bracket. So there's a through bolt that goes through the frame and through both sides of this headlight bracket. So it's a nut and a bolt that goes together. So we're going to slide that bolt through the headlight bracket, through the frame, and then back through the other side of the headlight bracket. Right, we'll get that in. Once we get that started, then we'll go ahead and start the 2 side bolts. Now, on the side that I'm working on now, the left-hand side, you do have to loosen the radiator and get that out of the way to get that bolt to get started. You can't get it in there, it's an interference fit. So you loosen the radiator bolt, take that bolt out or put the bolt in depending on what you're doing, and then you can go ahead and move to the other side, right? I'm also starting to put in the wiring harness back together. Now on this particular bike, I am taking more apart than what I needed to, right? Here I'm putting the fuse box back in. Obviously you didn't need to take that out, but if you've seen my previous videos, you knew that I had some wiring issues with this thing. So I tore it down to try to figure out what the wiring issues were, as well as pull the radiators out of it to do a valve adjustment. So I'm putting in the dashboard module now. So this has 4 bolts and actually 4 nuts, and these studs go through the framework of that headlight bracket. So once you get the 4 studs to fall through, then you go ahead and put the nuts on. You get that tied in. Once we get that tied in, then we'll go ahead and we'll install more wiring, right? And you don't want to over tighten them. They are on a rubber grommet, but it is 40-year-old plastic, right? So it can be brittle, don't go crazy. So here's the 2 harnesses for the dashboard. So we'll plug them back in. So now I've got the right handlebar and the left handlebar connected and the dashboard connected. I still need to plug in a couple more things. The ignition switch and the turn signals. So now that I've got the turn signals all wired back up, I'm going to plug the headlight in, and I'm just going to test everything, make sure that it all works before I hide all the wiring behind the headlight. And the headlight just basically has 2 nut and bolts at the top. So we'll go ahead and slide the nut through, and then there's an acorn nut on the front, and we'll do that on both sides. Once we get those 2 in, we'll tighten them up, and then the headlight It technically should be in the right spot because I never played with the adjustments, right? Only just the two bolts to take it on or off. But we'll see later if it actually has to be adjusted. Now we got that in. We're just checking all the wiring, make sure we're not pinching anything anywhere. There's one last bolt that goes across the bottom for the headlight. So we'll get that in there. So you got two across the sides of the top and then one across the bottom. Once again, we'll just check the wiring real quick, make sure the turn signals and light work before we go hide all this stuff. Everything seems to be working great, so that's good. I did have to take the turn signal back apart one time because the contacts were bad and it would only turn left. So now we're going to put on the fork brace. We'll get the 4 bolts in on the fork brace, and then once we get the 4 bolts in, there are some chrome caps that go over top of the brace just to hide the bolts. Now we'll put the fender together, put these inserts back in there. There's 4 bolts that go and connect into the fork brace, the bottom of the fork brace. So we'll go ahead and we'll get those 4 bolts started. I did try to take the fork brace out without taking the fender out, but it won't come out. So you do have to do it in 2 separate moves. Next, we'll slide the tire in. Get the bike jacked up high enough that it sits on top of that tire. And then we have the 2 U-shaped clamps that hold that axle together, right? So we'll go ahead and do that. There's a washer, a lock nut, and then a nut. And there are 2 on each side holding that assembly together. Once I got that assembled, then we'll go ahead and we'll put the track system back together. So this is the, I guess, anti-dive system, right? This prevents the forks from diving down, where the right side fork is the rebound. It keeps it from popping back up. So between the two, it settles down and goes back up. Now we're going to go ahead and put the brakes on. We'll lube those pins up real good before we put this thing together. Right? We'll make sure all the bushings have some good lube on it and the brakes don't hang up in any way. Push the brakes out of the way. 2 bolts, put them in, torque them down. Everything will be good. Next thing I'm going to do is put the speedometer cable back in. Now you do want to make sure that it lines up properly. I've heard a lot of people breaking the cable and doing different things. So make sure that you get both the top lined up and the bottom lined up before you put that screw in. If you force it, you're just going to break something. So it's just a Phillips head screw holding that in. Of course, it goes through the one bracket on the fender to keep it out. Next, we're going to go over to the right fork, which is the rebound side. Basically, not a whole lot there on that side, just a holder. And then once we get the holder in, then we'll go ahead and put the brake caliper on. We'll get that all torqued down and everything will be good there. Right? So now we've got the brakes back together. And we've got the anti-dive together. We're good to go. All right, well, thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it. I'll put these adjustments up there one last time in case you wanted to see what the rebound and the track are supposed to be set to. Thanks for watching my videos. Please like and subscribe. Have a good day.